Most people spend hours studying and still forget almost everything just a few days later. Not because they're lazy, not because they don't have a good memory, but because nobody ever taught them how the brain actually learns. Here's a fact most students don't know. Within 48 hours, the brain forgets up to 70% of what you learn, unless you do one very specific thing. That statistic comes from the work of German psychologist Hermann Ebbinghaus, who discovered the forgetting curve in 1885. And more than a century later, modern neuroscientists have confirmed he was right. So in this video, we're going to flip that curve upside down, using brain science techniques that let you learn faster than 99% of people, in a way that almost feels like cheating the brain. If you've ever said something like, "Why do I forget everything I study? Why do some people study less but remember more? Why do I understand it today but it disappears tomorrow?" This video will finally fix that. Here's what we're going to cover: why most study methods fail, scientifically. The one rule the brain uses to decide what to keep and what to delete. A three-step learning system backed by decades of research. How to remember 90% of what you learn without studying longer. And finally, a real example of how to learn a 30-page chapter in under 45 minutes. And the best part, you don't need to be a genius. You just need to use a different method than the 99%. The reason most people learn slowly isn't because they lack intelligence. It's because they use passive learning, which the brain treats as low-priority information. Examples of passive learning: rereading notes, watching lecture videos on repeat, highlighting everything in the textbook, copying notes word for word. The brain sees all of these as background noise, not something worth storing. That's why Ebbinghaus found that we forget things rapidly unless we interrupt the process. And in 2008, a 254-study meta-analysis, led by Dr. Nicholas Cepeda, confirmed the same thing. Memory is not lost because the brain is weak, but because information is not retrieved at the right time. In other words, the issue isn't learning. It's keeping what you learn. The brain has one rule for deciding whether to keep a memory. You don't remember what you review, you remember what you retrieve. This is called the testing effect, discovered by Dr. Henry Roediger at Washington University. In 2011, Roediger and Dr. Roediger Karpicke published a study in Science, showing that students who tested themselves remembered 50% more than students who merely reviewed. Students who reread said, "I feel like I know this." Students who used recall said, "I can prove that I know this." Big difference. That's why top students don't reread the chapter. They quiz themselves on it. Active recall examples: close the book and explain it out loud. Use flashcards with questions, not notes. Do blurting. Write everything you remember on a blank page, then check gaps. Teach the concept like you're tutoring someone. Learning isn't about putting information in. It's about pulling information out. But remembering information once isn't enough. There's a timing trick that turns recall into long-term memory. If active recall is what makes you remember, spaced repetition is when you should remember. Instead of reviewing the same day over and over, you review right before you're about to forget. That timing creates durable, long-term learning. And it's been proven again and again. The Cepeda meta-study, 2008, found that spaced repetition improved memory across every age group and subject, from medical school to language learning. And UCLA psychologist Dr. Robert Bjork called this the desirable difficulty that makes learning stick. That's why apps like Anki, Quizlet, and SuperMemo work so well. They automate the timing. If active recall is lock the memory in, spaced repetition is don't let it fade. Fast learners don't memorize facts. They connect ideas. The brain doesn't store information like a filing cabinet. It stores it like a web of meaning. Harvard memory researcher Dr. Daniel Schachter found that memories tied to visuals, emotions, or stories are 3 to 4 times more likely to stick. So instead of asking, how do I memorize this? Ask, what is this similar to? Where have I seen this idea before? How would I explain this to a 10-year-old? Can I turn this into a picture, a story, or an analogy? Memorization is fragile. Meaning is permanent. Here's how to combine all three science-backed methods fast. Step 1. Skim only the headings, 30 seconds. Just to get the map, not the details. Step 2. Turn each heading into a question. Instead of photosynthesis, write, how does photosynthesis turn light into energy? Step 3. Read only to answer the question, not line by line. Purposefully. Step 4. Close the book and recall out loud. If you can explain it, you own it. Step 5. Put those questions into spaced repetition flashcards. Now the system learns for you, even while you sleep. That's how you study less, but remember more. That's how you learn faster than 99% of people. So here's the challenge. Today, instead of rereading something, try recalling it instead. Close the book, write down what you remember, and then check what you missed. You'll feel the difference in minutes, not weeks. If you want more science-based learning videos like this, feel free to subscribe. No pressure. And if you want a flashcard template or spaced repetition guide, I've left links below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.